Every time we argued, my husband's parents whispered, "See, we told you she wasn't right for you." My husband started to believe them. I smiled, handed him my wedding ring, and said, "If you need them to approve of me, then you don't deserve me." The room fell dead silent as I walked away. I should have known from the start. His mother made it clear from day one that I wasn't welcome. His father barely acknowledged me, and every single time Adam and I had the smallest disagreement, his mother would whisper just loud enough for him to hear, "See, we told you she wasn't right for you." At first, Adam ignored them. He would roll his eyes and tell me not to listen. "They'll come around," he said. "Just give them time." I gave them years. We met when I was 26, and Adam was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, charming, funny. He came from money, old Southern money, the kind that buys influence and expects obedience. His family lived in Charleston, South Carolina, in a home that looked like it belonged in a history book. Meanwhile, I was from a middle-class family in Atlanta. I worked my way through college, had student loans, and didn't know a damn thing about country clubs or private fundraisers. That was enough for his parents to hate me. They never said it outright. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, it was 1,000 little things, like how his mother always introduced me as Adam's little girlfriend, even after we got engaged, or how his father only spoke to me when absolutely necessary, like I was a guest overstaying my welcome. Or how the night before our wedding, his mother pulled Adam aside and told him, "There's still time to change your mind." He married me anyway, and for a while, I thought that was enough. At first, Adam defended me. He called his mother out when she made backhanded comments about how I dressed. He shut down his father when he suggested a prenup, just in case. He held my hand at family dinners and squeezed it under the table when they tried to push my buttons. But they never stopped. Every time we argued, over dishes, over money, over who forgot to take the trash out, his parents turned it into proof that I was the problem. "See, she's too emotional. She doesn't understand you like we do. You could have done better." Over time, Adam started to believe them. It was slow, subtle, the way he hesitated before defending me, the way his eyes flicked toward his parents before answering simple questions, the way he started saying things like, "I wish you'd just get along with them," when I wasn't the one causing the problems. I tried. God, I tried. I swallowed my pride. I smiled through gritted teeth. I bit my tongue every time his mother looked me up and down like I was dirt under her shoe. But nothing I did was ever enough. Then came the night everything changed. We were at his parents' house for dinner, one of those formal, stiff gatherings where I was expected to sit still, speak when spoken to, and pretend I didn't notice the little digs his mother took. My way, I was used to it by then. But that night, she took it too far. She commented loudly about how wrinkled Adam's shirt was. "Honestly, dear, a wife should take pride in her husband's appearance." I laughed it off, even though I felt my blood boiling. Adam didn't say a word. That should have been my first warning. Later in the car, he was already in a bad mood over something else, and somehow that stupid shirt comment became an argument about everything, about how I didn't try hard enough with his family, about how I always had to pick a fight, about how I made things harder than they needed to be. I sat there, staring at him, trying to figure out when the man I married had turned into this. And then he said it. "Maybe my parents were right about you." The words hit me like a slap. I barely remember the rest of that night. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just shut down. The next morning, I packed a bag and left. I needed space. I needed to think. I didn't answer his calls. I ignored his texts. For 2 days, I stayed with a friend, trying to figure out if my marriage was even worth saving. When I finally came home, his parents were there. I should have turned around the second I saw their smug faces, but I didn't. Adam looked tired, worn down, like he hadn't slept since I left. But the first words out of his mouth weren't, "I'm sorry." They weren't, "I love you." "No," he said, "you really hurt me by leaving like that." And then, right in front of his parents, he said, "Maybe they're right. Maybe we rushed into this." I felt it in my bones, the final snap of something I had been holding together for far too long. I took off my wedding ring, placed it on the table between us, and smiled. If you need them to approve of me, then you don't deserve me. Silence. His mother's jaw dropped. His father, for the first time ever, actually looked shocked. And Adam, he just stared at the ring like he didn't recognize it. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked away. I expected Adam to chase after me, to call, to text, to show up at my friend's apartment begging for another chance. He didn't. Instead, I got radio silence, no calls, no texts, nothing. It hurt, but it also told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't fighting for me. He was letting me go. Then the divorce papers arrived. Not from Adam. No, that would have required him to actually make a decision on his own. They came from his parents' attorney, a thick packet, cold and impersonal, like I was just another business transaction they needed to wrap up. I could practically hear his mother's voice behind the legal jargon. Good riddance. I was furious, not just at them, but at myself for staying as long as I did, for bending over backward trying to win people over who never wanted me there in the first place. Fine, they wanted a divorce. I'd give them one, but not on their terms. See, Adam's parents thought I would roll over and sign whatever they put in front of me. They thought I would slink away quietly, embarrassed and broken. They underestimated me. What they didn't realize was that while they were busy looking down on me, I had been paying attention. I knew where the skeletons were buried. I hired the best divorce attorney I could find, someone who hated the old money crowd just as much as I did. Together, we tore their perfect little plan to shreds. I wasn't asking for much, just what I was legally entitled to, but to them, even that was too much. They wanted me gone, erased like I had never been a part of their son's life at all. Too bad, because Adam's family had money, a lot of money. In their arrogance, they had made mistakes, ones I now had the power to expose. His father had a habit of moving money around in ways that weren't exactly legal. His mother had written off personal expenses as charity donations. And Adam, well, Adam had been quietly siphoning money from our joint account for months. They thought they could play me. They thought I'd be too heartbroken to fight back. They thought wrong. When my lawyer presented our findings, the reaction was immediate. His father's face turned red, his mother for the first time in her life was speechless, and Adam, he just looked lost, like a child realizing too late that the adults in the room had screwed him over. That's when the messages started. Adam, who had been silent for weeks, suddenly couldn't stop calling. He wanted to talk. He wanted to fix things. He wanted to make it right. I ignored him, but one night around midnight, there was a knock at my door. I opened it, and there he was, disheveled, exhausted, desperate. Please, he said, we need to talk. I crossed my arms. We? You mean you and me, or you and your parents? His jaw tightened, and for a second, I saw the old Adam, the one I fell in love with, the one who once upon a time would have fought for me. I made a mistake, he admitted. I let them get inside my head. But you and me, what we had, it was real. I still love you. I stared at him. Once, those words would have shattered me, but now they just felt hollow. Because love isn't enough when respect is gone, and Adam, he had let his parents destroy every ounce of respect I had for him. Still, something told me this wasn't just about love. Why are you really here, Adam? I asked. His eyes flickered, guilt, panic, and that's when I knew his parents were in serious trouble. I let Adam in, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see him squirm. He stepped inside, running a hand through his hair, pacing like a man on the edge. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Good start. Talk, I said. He hesitated, of course he did, because for once in his life, he didn't have mommy and daddy telling him what to say. I screwed up, he admitted. I let them turn me against you. I let them control me. But you have to understand, they've been doing it my whole life. I never questioned them before. I didn't know how to. I almost laughed. Oh, poor you. The rich boy with mommy issues finally figured out his parents are toxic. Too bad it took him this long. Our marriage is getting destroyed for you to realize it. His jaw clenched. I could tell he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Instead, he dropped onto my couch, burying his face in his hands. "They're in trouble, all right," he said, his voice muffled. "Serious trouble." I leaned against the counter. "Oh, you mean because your dad's been committing fraud or because your mom's been using charity money to buy designer handbags?" His head snapped up. "How did you?" "I paid attention, Adam, unlike you." He let out a bitter laugh. "Of course you did." Turns out my little legal battle had rattled his parents more than I realized. The moment I started asking questions, people started looking closer at their finances. And once people started looking, things started unraveling fast. His father's business dealings had been shady for years, but with the divorce putting a spotlight on their finances, investors were pulling out. His mother's charity work was under investigation, and Adam had been named in a lawsuit because some of that stolen money had ended up in our joint account. That's why he was here, not because he missed me, not because he wanted me back, but because he was desperate. "They're trying to pin some of this on me," he admitted. "My dad, my mom, they think if they make me the scapegoat, they can walk away clean." I stared at him. "So what do you want me to do about it?" He looked at me, then really looked at me, and that's when I saw it, not just regret, but fear. "You're the only one who can clear my name," he said. "You know I never touched that money, but if you don't back me up, I'm screwed. I could go to prison." I was shocked. I knew his parents were selfish, but throwing their own son under the bus? That was next-level evil. And Adam, for all his privilege, for all his arrogance, was finally seeing what I had seen from day one. "They don't care about you," I said quietly. "They never did." He swallowed hard. He knew it was true. Still, that didn't mean I was going to save him. "You let them ruin our marriage," I said. "You let them break me down, make me feel like I was nothing. And now you want me to save you." He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. "No, Adam. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it." He stared at me, eyes desperate. "So that's it? You're just going to let them destroy me?" I tilted my head. "You didn't have a problem when they were trying to destroy me." And with that, I walked to the door and opened it. "Get out." Adam didn't move. He just sat there, staring at me like he couldn't believe what was happening. "Please," he tried again, his voice raw. "I don't have anyone else." I should have felt pity. Maybe a long time ago I would have, but now? Now all I felt was freedom. "That's not my problem," I said. His face twisted, a flicker of anger breaking through the desperation. "So what? You want revenge? Is that it?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, Adam, if I wanted revenge, I wouldn't just be standing here. Your family underestimated me, and now it's all crumbling. And you? You helped them do it. If you don't get to play the victim now." His eyes darkened. I saw the shift, the moment his desperation turned into resentment. "You always thought you were better than us," he muttered. "Always had something to prove." I felt my stomach turn. Even now, even when he was backed into a corner, he was still trying to turn it on me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "No, Adam, I never thought I was better than you. I just refused to be less than you." His jaw clenched. I could see the war in his head, the fight between blaming me and finally admitting that he had done this to himself. And I knew exactly which side would win. He shook his head, laughing bitterly. "You're unbelievable." I raised an eyebrow. "And yet you're the one begging me for help." He went silent. His pride wouldn't let him say it again. Good, I held the door open wider. "Goodbye, Adam." For a second, I thought he might actually try to argue again, but then, with a sharp exhale, he pushed past me and walked out. I didn't watch him leave. I shut the door, locked it, and exhaled. For the first time in years, I felt light. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, I got a call from my lawyer. His voice had that clipped, controlled tone that told me something big had happened. "Turn on the news," he said. I did, and there they were, Adam's parents being arrested. I sank onto my couch, watching in stunned silence as reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing. His father was stone-faced, but his mother looked absolutely hysterical. The headline at the bottom of the screen said it all: "Prominent Charleston family arrested in fraud and embezzlement scheme." But it was the next part that hit me the hardest, Their son Adam Calloway is also under investigation for his role in financial misconduct. I muted the TV. I knew Adam wasn't innocent, but deep down, I had assumed his parents would find some way to protect him, even if it meant selling out other people, even if it meant bending the law. They wouldn't actually let their own son go down with them. I was wrong. That same evening, I got another knock at my door. I didn't even have to check, I knew it was him. I took my time opening it, keeping my face calm. Adam stood there, his face pale, his hands shaking. "They threw me under the bus," he said, his voice hollow. "My own parents. Their lawyer just called me. I'm being charged too." I leaned against the door frame. "And that's all you have to say?" He blinked. I shrugged. "What do you want me to say, Adam? That I'm surprised? That I'm sorry?" "Because I'm not." His expression crumbled. He knew it was true. He swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "I should have chosen you." And for the first time, I actually believed him. I sighed, stepping outside so I was right in front of him. "Yeah, Adam, you should have." Then I did the one thing his parents never taught him how to do. I walked away without looking back. The months that followed were a whirlwind. His parents' trial made national news. The truth about their illegal dealings and tax evasion all came spilling out in public. Adam took a plea deal, avoided prison, but lost everything: the money, the connections, the family name that once opened every door for him. I heard he moved out of Charleston, tried to start fresh somewhere no one knew who he was. But it didn't really matter to me because for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking at the past, I was looking forward, and I had won.